First casualty of the NFL vaccination rules is a coach. It's a coach. Rick Dennison out as Minnesota Vikings assistant after refusing COVID-19 vaccine, sources say. Woo! Eagan, Minnesota. After refusing to receive a vaccine for COVID-19, Rick Dennison is out as a Minnesota Vikings assistant coach, sources told ESPN. Dennison has served as the Vikings O-line coach. O-line? I mean, we are some badasses, though. The O-line coach, run game coordinator the past 2 seasons, and that's been the best part of their offense, if we're being real. In a statement Friday, the Vikings said they were still in discussions with Dennison about the league's COVID-19 protocols. So what's the issue here? If they're still in discussions, how is he out? See, that's where you got to read. You got to read and comprehend. Read and comprehend and actually decipher what is being told to you, because they say he's out in the headline, but if you're reading it, he's in discussions about the league's COVID-19 protocols. Another coach in the league, New England Patriots coach, co-offensive line coach, O-line. What's going on? I mean, yeah, we do our shit, but I mean, that's like the most cohesive unit on the field. Everybody working for everybody else. Gotta stick together, guys. Shit. Another coach in the league, New England Patriots co-offensive line coach Cole Popovich, also won't be with his team in 2021 in a decision related to the COVID-19 vaccine and NFL guidelines. League sources confirmed to ESPN. The vaccine is required for all Tier 1 staff, including coaches, front office executives, equipment managers, and scouts. There's a reason for that. And I actually did not know that was a requirement, but I already know why it's required. I already know why. I mean, without even knowing, I was actually corrected on that on Twitter because I told somebody that it wasn't required when it actually was. So I was corrected, and just want you guys to know I was wrong on that. The vaccine is required for all Tier 1 staff, including coaches, blah, 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 blah. Players are not required to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, but will face strict protocols during training camp and throughout the season that vaccinated players will be able to forego. In a memo released by the league this summer, the NFL said any unvaccinated Tier 1 staff member must provide a valid religious or medical reason for not receiving the vaccine. Losing Tier 1 status prohibits coaches from being on the field and in meeting rooms and having direct interaction with players. Okay, so he's not going to be able to deal with the players at all. He's not going to be able to be around the players at all, which makes your job as a coach very hard, especially as an offensive line coach. That would practically make your job impossible if you can't interact with the O-line, which is absolutely necessary to actually coach. Then you'll be in the office. You're basically getting a demotion. That's basically what it amounts to. I don't know if that's how it is as far as pay goes, but I can imagine any coach, especially on the offensive line coach is a different coach than every coach on the team. Mainly because offensive line coach, and I'm not saying the other positions don't have this, but with the offensive line, it's a little bit different. That O-line, that connection that you have with your offensive line coach is like literally for life. Like you're gonna always talk to your O-line coach. I still talk to my O-line coach. He's with the Chiefs. I still talk to him to this day. Dennison's departure comes at a time of transition for the Vikings offense, which will be guided by first-year offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. Kubiak, 34, was promoted to fill the role his father, Gary, I was just about to say, it sounds like Gary Kubiak, held in Minnesota during the 2020 season. With 27 years of NFL coaching experience, Dennison was considered a vital piece in helping bridge the gap for the young Kubiak, given his experience calling run plays and knowledge of the scheme the Vikings have used since 2019. See, there you go. That is one of the reasons why the offensive line coach is such a huge part of the offensive strategy. Even when I was in Jacksonville, like a lot of times with Andy Heck as our offensive line coach, a lot of times Jack Del Rio, Mike Mularkey, like these cats would the offense coordinators, Dirk Cutter, they would defer to Andy on what he wanted to run in certain scenarios because he practically understood the schemes better than the offense coordinator did. Yeah, that's going to affect the team like severely. The Vikings were one of the league's prominent running teams in 2020 behind Dalvin Cook, who became the first Minnesota player to rush for at least 1,500 yards and 50 touchdowns in a season. Cook was responsible for 30.5% of Viking scrimmage yards, second highest rate in the NFL behind Tennessee's Derrick Henry, according to ESPN. In New England, Popovich coached with the Patriots through the spring, and his on-field presence stood out in part as he was the only staffer to wear a mask during practice. Popovich, who is distantly related to longtime San Antonio Spurs Greg Popovich. Damn, I was thinking the same thing there too. I'm like, Popovich. I mean, there's only one other Popovich I know. Distantly related, huh? My cousins, down the line. But said in September that he has never met him, was set to enter his 7th season with the Patriots. In 2020, he had shared the offensive line duties with longtime former Youngstown State offensive line coach Carmen Bracillo, who is now expected to take on more of a leading role. The Boston Globe first reported Popovich would be coaching with Patriots in 2021. Let's see here. Not sure how I should feel about this. I mean, the reason why, it seems to me, which I'm pretty sure I'm dead on about this, the reason why the NFL is requiring coaches in their tier 1 status to be vaccinated is because they don't want one of those coaches getting infected and infected a player on the roster who may not be vaccinated. That's the fear, because if it is, that's a 10-day drop. And if the NFL doesn't allow you to like actually pick up a player to fill that roster spot, then you're literally down a roster spot. You can't fill it up. So if it's an unvaccinated player who is infected by an unvaccinated coach, then you lose your coach and you lose your player. And likely, if they're on a football field, they're in vicinity, bodies are smashing into each other, bodies even in practice, even though it's not 100%, it's still very fast paced. So it's just a domino effect, and no team wants to deal with the domino effect. Look, for all the divisiveness that there is between, because it's split. I mean, me and one of my former teammates, we were talking about this just yesterday, and we had different views on it. Like, and it was, we weren't arguing, but we were just debating, talking our points. But at the end of the day, we both know that the NFL is not playing about this season. They're not going to allow themselves to have to move games around. And if they have to, it is going to be on the team that had the outbreak if it was an unvaccinated player. Sometimes you just say no comment and move on. Sometimes when you're in a situation where they got you in a corner and they ask you a question that you knew was coming, sometimes it's just better to just say no comment and move on. When asked if he is vaccinated, Cowboys' Dak Prescott said, "I don't necessarily think that's exactly important. I think that's HIPAA." Ah, damn, my boy. Come on, man. Use your noggin. That is not HIPAA. That is not how HIPAA works. I understand what he's trying to say, and I don't disagree with it. But if you're gonna try and dunk on the motherfucker, then dunk with both hands, bro. Now, where do I agree with him on this? I agree that it ain't your business if a person is or not. Worry about you. That I do agree with. I don't think that we need to be asking people in public space like this. I don't think we should be asking the athletes whether or not they're vaccinated. I don't think it matters to ask. Because if he just wants you to get off his fucking back, he's going to say, yeah, I'm vaccinated, and move on. Or he's just going to say, no, or they're going to say this shit, something like that. Or just no. Like, what does it matter? At this point, anybody can say whatever they want. It's pointless to even ask it at this point. You either got it or you don't. That's what it boils down to. Please, please, please stop saying HIPAA if someone asks you about your status, athletes. Please, it's not HIPAA. I understand what you mean, but that's not HIPAA. But this is the irony in which understanding a situation and understanding how your information is used gives you a little bit more perspective on how to like handle situations like this. The NFL violates your HIPAA rights, technically speaking, every Wednesday of the NFL season when they release an injury report. That injury report says what's medically wrong with you, what are the chances that you're going to be available to play for the week, and throughout the week they're updated, and your status can go from out, doubtful, questionable, probable, playing. Your HIPAA rights get violated every time you talk about a team member, a team staff member like the head coach or the team trainer talks about your health status. Now, I do believe also in your contract, you are waiving that right when you sign to be a part of the team. But nonetheless, if there was ever an example of your rights being actually violated, that would be it. I know someone already said this, but if everyone else is already vaccinated and one or two players aren't, isn't everyone else in the locker room protected? Yes, I think there's a threshold. I'm not exactly sure what the percentage is. I think it was like 85%. I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's totally true, but I think I saw that number somewhere. I don't know if that's what the threshold is for every NFL team, but they're supposed to. So if you have, let's say there's only 2 players on the team who are unvaccinated. If those guys get infected, they're out for 10 days. And that's that. That's it. Now, if they infect other players, which is not, which can happen, but it's not likely. And if it does happen, you're not going to get, you're more likely to be asymptomatic than to be, than to fall sick or have any severe symptoms. So if an unvaccinated player tests positive and then has and in that infects a vaccinated player, which actually I would say is a much higher chance probably in football because of the proximity that players will be with each other throughout the entire day. It's not like you're going into the store and then coming out, so you're only around people for like 20 minutes. You're literally around each other in close proximity for 3 hours out of the day, touching each other, pushing each other, running into each other, breathing all over each other with helmets clanging, even if unintentional or unintentionally. Like, there's probably going to be a lot of players who are vaccinated who will be infected too, which will then put them in a protocol where they'll have to test negative 2 times in 24 hours, I believe, 24 hours apart. But even in that situation, you're losing those players. What if it happens on a Friday? If it happens on a Friday, you lose that player for the game. What if it's Dak Prescott? You lose him for the game. And that's even if he's vaccinated. So there's a chance for it to hurt the team, period. Which is kind of a point in why the players should get vaccinated, because it would be harder for them to catch it outside of the facilities if they're vaccinated than it would be if you have unvaccinated and vaccinated players on the field at the same time in close proximity for hours, breathing, sweating, hitting each other. That creates the domino effect where you could lose a whole team even when they're vaccinated. So see, that's the danger of it, because it's much easier for the unvaccinated player to leave the facility, go home, walk into a store and catch it, or have a family member over and catch it. That's much easier that's a much easier thing to happen to the unvaccinated player. He won't know he has it. He'll come to the locker room on Wednesday, practice, which is the heaviest practice day, the longest practice day, the day where you're literally in the locker room and in the training room and on the practice field for 12, 13 hours total. The entire day on Wednesday, not knowing you got infected by your uncle who came over to drop off your shoes that you left at the cookout the week before. He's gonna infect you. You're gonna infect Dak Prescott, who's, let's say Dak is vaccinated. Dak is vaccinated, but he gets infected because you're a defensive end rushing off the edge and you're around him almost every play at some point, at multiple points throughout practice. Y'all are standing next to each other and you telling him a joke while you're drinking your Gatorade with your helmet off, not knowing you're infected, and you have billions on billions of viral load coming out your mouth. He gets infected. He don't find out till Saturday because he starts getting a little bit feverish, but not anything crazy, but I feel feverish just a little bit. So what's the first thing they're gonna do? Test him for COVID. Boom, he's positive. Dak's done. He'll be back. If it happens on Saturday, maybe he's back by Tuesday. Maybe he's back by Monday. But because he's down, he's out. You lose him for the game. Now, why did he test positive and he's vaccinated? Because even though you have virtually no viral load, if you as he was infected because of his vaccination, he has a very low viral count. The COVID test just tests for if you have any viral count at all. So you test and you come up positive for viral count, even if it's insignificant, like small, not enough for him to even like spread it, which is what the vaccine does. It keeps it from keeps that viral load from building up like it does in an unvaccinated person, so that you can spread it as you walk around. That's where the nuance of all this becomes integral to the teams and them being able to operate in a consistent fashion. Because now Dak Prescott, who isn't even showing symptoms at all, is positive and he cannot play on Sunday. So whose fault is that? The fucking dude who's unvaccinated. Because if he was vaccinated and his uncle came over and he did infect him, his viral load would be so small that he wouldn't infect Dak Prescott during practice. That is how this whole thing falls apart for the NFL if they allow groups of uninfected or of unvaccinated players to be able to roam the city and kick it and do whatever they want because they grown men and go somewhere and catch it and then bring it back to the team. That's the problem.